Start the special meeting with the pledge to the flag. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you all for coming. Tonight's special meeting has the one agenda item, and I would ask for a motion to pass the resolution to sell certain parcels of land subject to mandatory referendum. And do you want to read that?
I did.
And we'll it goes into the record.
Yeah, so if it went to the record, so people could hear the resolution. Steve, before I read the resolution, I wanted to just make a point about the resolution and the referendum process, because I think there's been a little bit of confusion about how the process works. The town law, section 64 specifically, talks about the sale of real property of the town being subject to permissive referendum. And the way permissive referendums are conducted is governed by Article 7, sections 91, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94 of the town law. And what those provide is that anything that is subject to permissive referendum can be conducted pursuant to a mandatory referendum by election of the town board. And given the interest that we've had on this particular topic, it was thought that the best interest would be done by having a mandatory referendum. Now, on a permissive referendum, if there is 5% of the people who voted in the last gubernatorial election sign a petition, it forces the referendum. In our case, that would have been 182 signatures. And if it's not done within a very, very narrow window, you have to have a special election outside of the regular annual election day, the biannual town election, as it's referred to, all right, which is held on election day. So if the petition is filed within 60 days and 75 days of election day, you are allowed to have the proposition go to the electorate on election day. And given the low number of signatures required for the petition, and the fact that if we didn't get it within this very narrow window, it would force the expense of a special town election, it made the most sense to have this by mandatory referendum, which is authorized by statute, and it would allow it to be done in a time and place where the most number of people could participate and vote, and it would minimize the expenses to the town. All right, just so we've got some context of the resolution, the reasons why it's drafted the way it is. All right, it makes the most sense. It'll guarantee the most participation in this important vote.
Eric, that would also more likely push that vote back by months, correct?
Well, Sam, there is time limits, but what it would do is it would, if the resolution doesn't come within that very specific window, that 15-day window, it would force a special election. So we would possibly be in a scenario where the week after election day, we'd be holding a special town election along with its attendant expenses on that day, right? Which just...
Wasn't sure if that would push it out quite a bit further.
There's still a time limit within which you have to conduct, so it wouldn't have created that big an issue time-wise, right? But it certainly would have created, additional expense for the town. So, anyhow, the resolution that, if you want to move forward, would need to be adopted would be as follows.
Well, a couple questions there. You said can make it mandatory. Now, I'd rather have seen this in two separate resolutions, because what is going to happen, first of all, it's been a long 3 years for all of us, I get that. And it's not like we have a lot of people knocking on the doors to take over and move forward. I'm not talking about the sale of this and moving forward. I'm talking about the mandatory referendum. We've all done our homework. We know where we are. Now all of a sudden, it's a mandatory referendum to put back out to the public. What if, Mr. Supervisor, what if that doesn't pass? What do we do next? What do we do with the DOH grant? I don't know, maybe the Board of Managers can answer this. Do we back to square one? That's why I was wondering why both of these are put together, because, and there's really no explanation of what happens if this doesn't pass. Where are we?
Well, Tom, let me take a stab at that, okay?
Yep.
The authorization letter, the award letter from the Department of Health had certain conditions contained in it. One of them was working with St. Lawrence Health System, or an entity that they control, right? So if the resolution, and again, put it into context of, they were the ones who stepped forward. They were the only ones who stepped forward with any contribution of their own money.
Right, I understand that.
So
That's what I say.
in the event that this does not pass, we are back to square one. I don't think there's any way to sugarcoat that.
Right.
If this does not pass, the money dissolves. Is that correct?
I mean, it was a specific condition of the award letter.
Yeah, we're not going to get that money without it, yes, the way the award is written right now.
You are referring to money from the DOH?
From DOH to grant, correct.
So, again, my full point here is, and maybe I've misunderstood, I am not against the way we're headed, because we have to. It's probably the only option we have. But we've had a long 3 years. We've been through this all. I wish this wasn't mandatory. I can put my head down on a pillow at night and say, I work for these people, taxpayers, I'm okay with it. If the naysayers out there want to go out and put out a petition and get them, so be it. But we've done our homework. The Board of Managers, present and past, have done their homework. We know where we are. We have to do this to have a hospital here in Massena. We all get that. The supermajority get that. But to tie a mandatory referendum into this resolution is concerning to me, because part of this, I want to vote for it, obviously, to move forward, because I want a hospital here. I want to make sure we have jobs here, and I want to make sure there's zero impact on the taxpayers. And the only way to do that right now is what I'm being told by you guys, is to move forward with the sale of St. Lawrence Health. And so I'm concerned about when that word mandatory comes in here, we're back to square one, goes back onto the taxpayers, and we gotta cut services, we gotta lose this. I'm really concerned about this. I'm okay with it, I moved on. Were we all upset about some process? Yes, we were. We moved on. We've got to move on and save this hospital. I get it. It's really concerning to me that it's gonna be a mandatory referendum, and if it gets turned down, we're gonna lose all that money. And where are we?
Back to square one, there is no square two.
There is no square one.
Well, square one is not having.
Like I said,
Back
if
where we were.
the referendum does not pass, then the money disappears. The $28 million disappears. And Massena Memorial Hospital closes.
About $30 million in debt, and that'll be on the taxpayers.
And that's not what any of us want.
No, neither way, that's why we've done all this, to move it along.
But Tom, to I guess answer your specific concerns, right? We could have done this subject to permissive referendum, but it's such a small number of signatures needed on a petition that it didn't seem sensible to the committee who've been working on it to do it by permissive referendum, because it's just such a low number, and we know there has been so much interest generated about this topic.
Agreed.
Right?
I understand that.
So there will be, in our estimation, there will be a referendum, no matter what, right? Because we think the signatures will be there to force the referendum in any event. So the question becomes, what's the most efficient way to do the referendum, right? And the most efficient way is to adopt it within that 15-day window that's between 60 and 75 days from election day. And it just so happens tonight is within that time frame, right? And let's put this out to a vote and have people understand the stakes that are involved.
Well, this also gives us the opportunity to put it out there and have some public hearings and talk about what we're gonna do. Now that we've got this resolution that we wanna put out there and pass, this is the perfect opportunity.
I disagree with it's perfect opportunity as a mandatory referendum. That's the only concern to me is because where are we? I understand it's a small number, Eric, I get that. And I understand the process. If they want to go out and get those signatures, then all that happens. But it's really concerning to me that if we go back to square one, if this doesn't pass. And my hands are tied tonight because I'm going to vote on this because I want to move forward. We have to move forward or we're going to lose our hospital. But I want to express my opinion about, I don't like the mandatory part of it. Let the naysayers go out and get it. It's been a tough year on the employees, it's been a tough year as the board of managers, present, past. It's been 3-4 tough years on this board. I'm comfortable moving forward the work we have done.
Well,
And I'm just expressing my opinion.
I think we're all comfortable with the work that we've done, but you're giving it the opportunity to happen on a separate date other than the election day.
Like I said, my hands are tied because we got to move forward.
Yeah.
It's something that has
See,
to
perhaps I
happen.
can read the resolution so that everybody can hear it. Yes? Go ahead and read it.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Whereas the town of Massena, the town, owns Massena Memorial Hospital, an acute care community hospital providing medical, surgical, obstetric, pediatric, and emergency services at 1 Hospital Drive, Massena, New York, Massena Hospital. And whereas the town adopted a resolution on July 30th, 2019, the resolution authorizing the town and Massena Hospital to enter into and close the transactions contemplated by an asset purchase agreement by and among St. Lawrence Health System, the town, and Massena Hospital, the asset purchase agreement. And whereas pursuant to the asset purchase agreement, St. Lawrence Health System will purchase assets identified therein related to the operation of Massena Hospital, including all parcels of real property currently titled to the town and or Massena Hospital used in the conduct of the business of Massena Hospital, subject to, in part, the town and Massena Hospital obtaining all required approvals. And whereas the town and Massena Hospital have acquired by deeds recorded in the office of the St. Lawrence County Clerk, copies of which are available for public inspection at the office of the town clerk of the town, certain parcels of real property, and the town has previously accepted said land, described in more detail in the attached Exhibit A, collectively the land. And whereas the land is the location of the principal and accessory facilities and operations of Massena Hospital, and a portion of the asset subject to the asset purchase agreement. And whereas the town has determined that as a result of the asset purchase agreement, the land is surplus land not required for any public purpose. And whereas the town determined and acknowledged in the resolution that in the face of financial challenges arising from its aging infrastructure and legacy liabilities, the purchase price offered by St. Lawrence Health Systems in the asset purchase agreement is good, valuable, and fair consideration for the assets to be sold, which includes the land. Now therefore, be it resolved and determined pursuant to the provisions of the town law, section 64, 91, and 94, and subject to a mandatory referendum, that the town finds the land to be surplus property upon completion of the terms of the asset purchase agreement, and will sell the land to St. Lawrence Health System or an entity controlled thereby pursuant to the terms and conditions set forth in the asset purchase agreement. And be it further resolved that pursuant to section 92 of the town law, the town clerk shall prepare, with the advice of the town attorney, a proposition to be submitted to the electorate of the town containing an abstract of this resolution, and forthwith transmit the proposition to the town board and the St. Lawrence County Board of Elections in the form in which it is to be submitted to the electorate.
All righty, so if I could get a motion in a second, then we'll open it up for,
So moved.
Second.
okay. Town councilman, if you have anything to add to that.
So does the transfer agreement follow this, Eric? This is
Then
just the
we'll open it
resolution
up
to
the
agree.
public afterwards.
What's that?
And then we'll open it up to the public if they have a comment.
Okay.
This, let's be clear, this is just another step in the process, right? One of the contingencies that we have to satisfy is this resolution and, referendum process. So, we still have a ways to go,
Okay.
right? This is just another step.
So employees will be the next step,
Absolutely. Well,
and what they require, and how many, and the whole 9 yards of all that. This is
Among-
just the first.
this is the first step among many, right? This is, and again, you gotta remember where this stems from, right? This is a requirement of the statute that governs how towns transfer real property, right? It's a lengthy, cumbersome process that if we're gonna do this transaction, we have to at least start. Right? It wasn't, nothing more than that. This is the time to do it if we're gonna do it.
And that was my question. So the transfer, the stuff that this board has talked for years will be to follow.
Absolutely.
The impact on the taxpayers, zero impact to taxpayers, the jobs, all of that will follow this.
Again, one of many
Okay.
steps
Okay,
that was contemplated under the asset purchase agreement. Absolutely.
thank you.
I think Mr. Bender, who's acting, has spoken and will continue to speak to civic groups and clubs and so on. And I think they expressed surprise that Massena Memorial was as close to closure as it really was. And if we don't act in a timely fashion, I'm afraid it was going to happen.
I share that. There was an incredible amount of work done by this board and the folks at St. Lawrence Health System and the Department of Health to keep this hospital open. And I think a lot of that, has not been recognized. And the direness of the situation,
That frightens me.
absolutely. But it's the thing we've all feared for a long time. We've known this day was coming.
Yeah, and I think that the taxpayers of the town of Massena would accept this deal with open arms. I don't think that we have to worry about it.
I agree the supermajority is too.
So I said,
The supermajority.
so I said that the last meeting, the $28 million represents 10 years of town taxes. So if we were to have to pay that back, if you had interest in that, just double your town taxes for 12 or 13 years. That's how much it would cost to bail out the debt of this hospital. Plus, we would have no healthcare facility here if we didn't pass this resolution, didn't pass the vote.
And that was my question last Wednesday to Eric about how is it gonna be written on the ballot? That's gonna be crucial that people know the impact if it's voted one way versus voted the other way. And I know
That's
Eric,
the message that they're trying to get out now, as we speak.
Yeah, very long, hard process.
Tom, maybe I can speak to the ballot just a little bit. The town law requires that when a proposition is submitted for consideration by the electorate, that it be done, it's not a two-step process, but the proposition is supposed to contain two things. One is an abstract of the resolution that's sent it to the ballot, and the second thing is the proposition to be voted on, all right? So, as the resolution, and in fact, this is right out of the statute, it directs the town clerk to prepare it in consultation with the town attorney. I took the liberty, not the liberty, but the initiative to get a draft started, to have Pam review so that we can submit it consistent with what the statute requires. And it would sound something like this. On August 26th, and again, this assumes that you do in fact adopt this resolution this evening. All right, the ballot proposition would read as follows. On August 26, 2019, the town board of the town of Massena adopted a resolution authorizing the transfer of the real estate used in the operations of Massena Memorial Hospital to St. Lawrence Health System, or an entity controlled thereby, as part of the transfer of the Massena Memorial Hospital assets and operations to St. Lawrence Health System. The resolution acknowledged and furthered, in the face of financial challenges arising from aging infrastructure, accruing taxpayer liabilities, and is a direct effort to ensure the preservation of health care in Massena, the town board's adoption of the resolution on July 30th, 2019, authorizing the transfer of the Massena Memorial Hospital assets and operations to St. Lawrence Health Systems, subject to the terms of an asset purchase agreement. The resolution, meaning the one this evening, the resolution further recognized the town of Massena, Massena Memorial Hospital currently own the real estate related to the operation of Massena Memorial Hospital, and that the transfer of the real estate by the town is subject to a public referendum. Shall the town of Massena transfer the real estate used in the operation of Massena Memorial Hospital to St. Lawrence Health System, or an entity controlled thereby?
Thank you.
Anything else?
Do you want to say something?
Really? That's got to be on the ballot for the common person in Massena, New York. We can't just say on the ballot, the town is authorized to sell the assets of Massena Memorial Hospital to Canton Hospital, or St. Lawrence Health Systems, excuse me.
But
That seems, I mean,
I understand that, but the statute requires an abstract of the resolution that brought it forward. Don't shoot the messenger.
no, I'm just, but it seems, I mean, it seems like wordy and superfluous, that you don't need all that stuff in there. It's a yes or no vote. You're gonna sell the hospital to St. Lawrence Health System or not? That's what, I mean, yes you are, no you're not.
And I don't necessarily disagree, but if you want my opinion on what the statute requires and what would comply with it,
Okay.
Eric, I kind of agree with what you're doing, but if you say no, can you put down what the ramifications are gonna be? No.
yeah, again, the statute is very specific, Frenchie, on what has to be in the proposition. And I think this does it.
That becomes your job, to explain to the residents of town Massena exactly what the tax impact on their homes will be if this resolution fails.
That's
Two things, the
everyone's job.
hospital's job is to explain there probably wouldn't be a healthcare facility in Massena, New York, if this resolution fails. I think it's the town board's responsibility to talk about tax dollars, because if the proposition goes down, the liability is still there. You have to pay off that debt. Even if there's no hospital, you have to pay off that debt. And the town of Massena residents need to know that. And that's your job, I think.
It's everybody's job, even lay people.
Well, but I mean,
Okay,
it's
they're
your job to get the
concerned.
word out and then it
They're
becomes-
concerned about the impact on their taxes, and they should be. You know,
It's not not just the taxes, I mean, it's the healthcare facility.
Right, and that's, I really feel as our job as a member of the hospital board of managers is to explain to people that chances are, if this does not pass, there will not be, I don't wanna say 100%, but it really is, that there would not be a hospital in Massena because we can't meet payroll, we couldn't pay our bills, and everyone will shut us off. And because the 20 million goes away, and when the 20 million goes away, the 8 million from Potsdam goes away also.
That's right.
But then,
And the 2.8 that we bore.
right, and the 2.8 that we borrow would have to be paid back, exactly. But, I mean, it involves a lot of public relations between now and November.
Can I just say something? I just want to clarify, this resolution is going to go to the town when, in November?
Yes. Election day.
Okay, because, I've been here for 30 years, and I love this hospital, I love this community, and I think that we as the doctors of Massena provide excellent care to the patients in this community. Now, if this resolution does not go through, I was a member of the board, and I'm also talking as a physician. We weighed both options, and I think the option that the board elected was the proper one. The other option did not provide any money to Massena. We didn't get a grant from New York State. With this resolution, we're not only getting $20 million from the state, contingency that we work with St. Lawrence Healthcare, plus we're getting $8 million from St. Lawrence Healthcare. No other facility, no other entity is willing to come up and put their money down on this hospital. We as a medical staff have a great working relationship with the physicians in Potsdam, and we continue to do so, and we're hoping that this will go further. Residents of Massena are going to Potsdam to get treated. There's a mass exodus from Massena to go to Potsdam. It's only logical that we combine forces, and we have a hospital here that's working in close collaboration with Potsdam, and will be one medical facility here. If we don't do this, then we can kiss the hospital goodbye. You're going to lose all the physicians, and then you're going to be stuck with a debt as a resident of Massena to pay off the debt to New York State. The pension fund is incredibly expensive. Not only that, plus we owe money to vendors. We can't meet payroll right now. So this is the dire situation here.
Sure.
And I don't think we can wait until November for this thing to go through.
So I want to continue the same. I think I concur. I'm here 31 years in Massena. And 31 years, we have done very good. Whatever mistake we did, because of the consequences, we are in this boat. Anyway, we need to move forward. We here 3 people have come to give us the opportunity whether we want to join with Burlington, Vermont, or University of Burlington, Krause. None of them were offering us money. The only money which was offered to us is from St. Lawrence Health System, and also the State Department, if I remember, they gave the contingency that without joining with them, we will not be able to get the money. 30 years or 1990, Dr. Axelrod had come from New York State Commissioner to open a similar situation, to open a one hospital system in Madrid. It did not materialize that part, but that was exactly the same way, to open one big center. Canton, Potsdam, hate to say that, they have come up, and if we collaborate, our patients, the local people, do not have to travel 3 hours to Syracuse and to Burlington, because they are hiring more physicians. We have a good relationship with them before even Massena was in trouble, and we continue to do that part. None of the other hospital has given us opportunity to come and join with them. So I think if we don't do it, as all of you are saying, taxpayers are going to pay regardless whether we join or not join. The taxpayers will be ended up, if we join, we don't have to, and I think this is a golden opportunity that we have been saved. Hahnemann Hospital in Pennsylvania, big hospital, teaching hospital, has been closed down July, and nobody was supporting them, all right? At least, I'm not sure why we got chosen to, the state is giving us 20 million plus 8 they are going to put right now, and if needed more. We may lose some service, but then, as I said, in 1990, we wanted to make one service. And as a businessman, it makes sense to make it one service, 20 minutes or 25 minutes drive versus 3 hours drive. I think what Loretta Perez said, it is a responsibility of all the town members and the hospital people, just like election. You all have a responsibility to give the education to the Massena and the surrounding area. What will happen if we don't do this? Of course, otherwise we're going to lose, completely close down. I don't think there is another option we have. Either close down and pay the taxes, extra taxes, or join and don't pay the taxes. So I think it's a very, very important issue.
I don't think we can wait until November personally.
We are allowed to move forward.
We are busting at the seams.
We're still allowed to move forward. It just becomes that vote finalizes everything, I think. We are still going to move on the path that we're on with Potsdam.
Yes, but if the town decides not to go with it, they're pulling out.
Yeah, I know that. But I'm hoping that we can work under the assumption.
I mean, we're working on the presumption now that as of August 1st, we're going to have new members in the emergency room department. September.
Right.
Yeah, September, what am I saying? Yeah, so September 1st, we're going to have a new crew in the emergency room. And I think we're also working for anesthesia as well.
Right.
So I think the process is starting to roll, and I think to stop it midstream is totally ludicrous.
I mean, we're not, my idea is that we're not going to stop.
This process is still moving along, it's just one of the steps in it.
This is just like a final stamp.
Even if this happened tomorrow, it'd still be months before the hospitals would be transferred.
Yeah, it's still gonna be.
They're still looking at the end of the year, maybe the first part of 2020,
Right.
correct?
Yes, depending, I mean, there's a
Right.
lot of conditions that with the state and
Right.
St. Lawrence Health System still, obviously one of them is get the referendum passed.
Yep.
But if I was buying, or I was gonna buy Massena Memorial Hospital and we're in limbo here, I'm not gonna put my own money into this place if I know that in a month or two, they're gonna reject it, or there's a possibility of rejection.
I think the bottom line here is, if you don't vote on this today, there are plenty of naysayers out there. They can have a referendum with 182 votes. That would put this vote off about 5 more months, which probably would require you to borrow more money to make payroll, correct? So this would allow us the quickest way to transfer the services. I think that this is the option.
What option?
They explained it, I'm not sure you were here.
I wasn't here, I came.
Yeah, they explained it, I'll let them explain it again, but with 182 votes, the public can force a referendum.
And it would be later than the election, Dr. B.
It's 182 signatures,
Yep.
right?
Yes.
Wait. Let's direct all comments to the town board if you could. But Dr. Desai, you had your hand up.
Well, I've been a physician here since 1991, and I'm the medical director at Massena Hospital for 21 years. I mean, the importance of the hospital to the community is such an immense thing. I mean, we have wonderful staff here. I mean, I have been in different institutions before, worked there, and since I have come here, I mean, we have had, pleasure, privilege, and honor to work with some of the best, staff, our nursing staff, our ancillary staff. and they put their heart and soul to take care of our community. I mean, the distance people don't realize, from here to, say, CPH, it's a 25 minutes. If you have a stroke or if you have a heart attack, all those minutes are very valuable where you can lose very vital function of your body, And I don't see, like people like us who, when we moved here, we are not locals, but we have become the locals, And, I joke about it, but truly, we always say, we have put our name in Ellenberg Depot for the crematorium. So, we don't see ourselves moving anywhere else. So if I'm going to be here, thank God I'm providing the service at the institution as a provider. But who knows, tomorrow I may need that hospital as a customer, And I would like to make sure that we do everything possible to keep this institution afloat. And I think we have done it. We have seen good days, we have seen bad days, We all have been through, there were, like what Dr. Javeri said with Dr. Axelrod. Actually, the hospital was he had come to close the institution in the 88 or 89 time, And with the good work of the hospital, physicians and the staff, the hospital had done very well. So unfortunately, at this stage, when we are in a bad shape, I think if this is the best option, let's take it, salvage our hospital, and give the good quality, because we are not a growing community. We have people who are getting older, and we will need this hospital more and more as the time goes by. So I think as a physician, and actually we as a medical executive committee, we had unanimously supported this decision in our last meeting, and we continue to support, and we will support whatever is needed to make sure that we as an institution continue to function, continue to provide the quality care that we can do for it.
I think to continue, I think we should decide if possible. I'm not sure what is the legal implication, but as the medical executive committee has done the same, I think you, all people, have executive power to overrule, I think, to do, because as a businessman, as Dr. Bakkertson says, if I'm going to put that much money, and I put all the money, and then you come and say, you know what, I'm very sorry, 182 people have decided not to give you. I think that's a disaster. We have to pay them any which way, and at the cost of closing the hospital. That's unacceptable.
Mrs. Roberts.
I just think it would be a shame if we left this meeting tonight without saying thank you to the town board. This has been a horrible, horrible 4 years. I think Tom said that you've been working on it. Horrible decisions have had to have been made by the town board. And I don't think we would have gotten to this point tonight. As Eric said, we've seen it coming for years. I worked at the hospital for 21 years. I lived through those years. We've seen it coming. But I don't think we would have gotten to this point tonight where we had a legitimate offer to purchase our assets of the hospital and to keep the hospital open, had it not been for our town supervisor who stepped forward, saw that we were in dire straits financially, regardless of what some of the board members were saying. We had a board member in January of this year saying, we're taking in $4 million a year, we have money. She neglected to say we were spending $5 million a month, or $4 million a month. We were spending $5 million a month. So as Mr. Bender's going out now saying, we're broke, we need to do something. Thank goodness that that'll happen. So if Steve hadn't have had the courage to step up and say, at great personal risk to myself, he was badmouthed, really bad in this community. He was maligned. He was called names by former people who held office. But yet he persevered and he went forward. And I think that we owe you a debt of gratitude, and also to all of the board and to the current hospital board members who have supported and had an open mind to keep our hospital open. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve.
I'll make sure the check is in the mail.
Not so without
Excuse me.
saying something.
Excuse me, you're gonna get another check to me. I was one of those naysayers. I fought you tooth and nail, you know I did. When you asked me if I wanted to remain on the board, my question to you is, are you sure? Because you know that I disagree with you. I am eating my words because I am taking responsibility for being misinformed, not having all of the information we should have had as board members that I feel I do have now. I am actually sleeping at night because I firmly believe that hospital that months ago I was told was predatory, they're not predatory. They are looking out for our best interests. We have anguished over this, but I firmly believe, thank you, thank you, thank you. We have made the right decision. Our hospital might hurt for a little while. When all of this is said and done, there might be some hurt, but I believe down the road we will be stronger and better than we were when, and if, let's say when this deal goes through with Potsdam. I have been very impressed with what I've seen. I have learned so much in 5 months that I didn't know in 5 years. And I do thank you. You're never going to hear me say that again, Ms. Rochelle. But I thank you, thank you, thank you, because we are moving in the right direction. This referendum needs to pass to save our hospital.
Today.
Well, I have to go to the vote, that I understand, but this resolution needs to pass to save our
I
hospital.
I
have to agree
think
with
with
you.
Loretta, I gotta give you a compliment. She agonized and agonized over one thing. How many jobs can we save? How many jobs can we lose? And the thing is, if the hospital closes, we lose them all. Okay, to keep the jobs, we've got to have the hospital. And she, came around after some.
Hard-headed
It was not an
and
easy
sorry.
process, but I do have to commend you, Loretta.
And
I know
learning.
what it's like. I was part of the hospital board for 5 years, and we were only told certain information. And we asked questions, and we were shut down. We asked questions, and we were still shut down. Thank God the truth is finally coming out, and people are being told of how much in debt and how much it needs to be there. We need to have a hospital, and the truth has come out. And I thank the board, the Massena Memorial Hospital Board of Managers. It was not an easy process, meeting every week and trying to have people come together and do everything that needed to be done. But eventually it did happen, and I'm very thankful for it. And I, like you, Loretta, can finally sleep at night. So
Loretta, I
thank
know
you.
you said earlier that it is our job to make sure the public is aware of the no vote if it happens. But I would like to also follow up what Albert said. It's got to be all of us. And if this passes tonight, I say that we come up with a plan, your board and our board, how we release something every week. We've only got about, 8, 9 weeks. We release something that's got the correct information so the public can read it, so that they know when they go to vote, whether how it's written, and I'm sure we're going to follow what our council says, however it's written, that they know when they go to vote, they have all the information they need. So I think it's crucial for your board, the doctors, everybody work together and continue to release information to the public on a weekly basis until Election Day to make sure they know the correct information.
I agree. I think we need to revive, remember the committee we started?
Yes, we did.
I think we need to revive that committee and get together for this. And because I thought that was very positive when we all got together, and then it kind of went by the wayside with everything that was going on. I think I'm going to talk to Mr. Bender and Tina and see if we can redo that committee. Because that wasn't, we all came out of there, the first two, we had 2 meetings, or we all came out of there feeling positive. We need to do that again. I agree. Thank you.
Thank you
Yes.
for all your work too. Thank you to the board
Dr.
managers.
Desai and Dr. Javari, for the executive board, for the physicians, if you were to write a letter that was sent out to the media, I think that would help a lot as well. Sue Maggie.
I too want to thank the board. CSCA has been in the beginning of it for 6 full years. And when we chose who to be the supervisor, and it's been a rough road and everything, but he stuck it out. And our membership, we had a meeting, and in our meeting, CSCA is behind you guys to go with St. Lawrence Health System.
Thank you,
Okay?
thank you.
And I want to thank you. What's that?
Said we were at one of those meetings.
Yeah, but no, this was like,
No,
we just recently
I
had,
understand,
yeah.
We appreciate
Yep,
that.
no.
It's been great working with,
Thank you very much, Sue.
Are we gonna take a vote? Are you guys gonna take a vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Frenchie.
I was at the airport yesterday and a very highly respected person was talking to me for about half an hour. And I'm glad what you're doing and I respect you, Steve. But I think it's got to come from the attorneys in charge, the legality part, because some of us don't understand that. St. Lawrence Health System and the legality people get up in front of the board, and the board sits here, that the public asks you some questions, and you answer them by the law. By the law. Because that's going to make all the difference in the world. Because you and I can talk, but if it comes from the law and Eric and those who are responsible for the system, we're the supporters, but it comes from you. And that's where it's got to come from, you and St. Lawrence Health lawyers, to explain what we're doing
Why we need the referendum.
and why we need it, and what the ramification is going to be if it doesn't get through. It's going to be helter-skelter.
Eric, I think it would be helpful if, I know you did at the beginning of the meeting, maybe some people missed it, but just to clarify why you're sort of volunteer, just making it a mandatory referendum rather than waiting for people to gather the 182 signatures.
Yeah, and let's be clear about that again. It could have gone either way at the direction of the town board, but the committee of the town board has been working on it. Sam and Steve in consultation with myself and I don't know if you guys remember Sam Burgess, who works with Jason Sentinella, who's been helping us with the medical side of this transaction. We just felt this has had such interest. The most efficient way to get the process complete in a legal fashion was to have the mandatory referendum. There was such a small vote requirement for the proposition that would force a referendum that we figured it would happen regardless. And by doing it the way we've done it, we are able to do it on election day so that the people can participate and we don't add expense and complication to a process that's already full of both, right? This was the cleanest method that both complied with the law, allowed the people to participate, and would have the vote on election day in a way that made sense, period.
Period.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Was there somebody over there?
Yes, my name is Del Pete Facey. I'm one of the general surgeons at the hospital. Thanks for making this possible. I think we are in the right track with this upcoming merger. One of my concerns is the interpretation by the general public of what all this means and how it's going to affect how they vote. And I think it's our responsibility to make sure it's being presented in the simplest fashion where they can understand what's going on and the implications, one way or the other. And I think if we could do that, then the understanding of what they're voting for and against would be an easier process.
Is there a possible they can make on the poster near wherever they're going to do the voting, what are the implications if you do or don't? And maybe in the paper every, 8 weeks, 2 weeks, whatever, to give repeated, because repetition is the way people will understand in simple way, that if you do it, we'll have blah, blah, blah. If you don't do it, tax and no hospital. This has to be explained simplest way.
I do. It's something, looks like you have an idea, maybe the unions will step in as well and have some sort of a drive to get the word out as well.
Labor Day parade.
Yep, there we go.
They said.
But and I feel confident that the taxpayers of the town of Massena will know which way to go. I mean,
Yeah.
if it's explained to the taxpayers of the town of Massena, I think that they'll come up with the same conclusion that we in this room have come up with. I don't think it's going to be that much of a stretch to do
No,
that.
I don't think so either.
And I think we're on the right track.
I think so, and I think Mr. Bender going out talking to the community is very positive.
Very positive.
And-
Very articulate.
I worry sometimes about senior citizens, because I am one now, and I've actually been talking to a lot, and they all see it. They see exactly how to save our hospital.
Yeah.
So I do think it's going to be a positive outcome.
I'm not that worried. I think we've got to get the word out, and they'll catch on and vote in the proper manner, and we'll have a hospital for years to come. A very
Growing
successful.
hospital. Yes, a hospital that will continue to grow.
Yep.
Yes, with awesome people.
All right, Dr. Singh.
Yeah, but I think the only input that I have is the distractions need to stop, because that prevents patients from coming to the hospital. They keep going to other facilities. And I actually, being the ground person, I see it every day. When I first started about a year and a half ago, we used to have census of about 30, 35. But now the census is very low. And that's mostly because of all the chatter that goes on about the stability of the hospital, right? I think that needs to stop for the hospital to actually be on the right track. Regardless of who comes in, like San Laurence Health System comes in, they will need patients. And the word needs to get out is that the hospital is stable, it's here to stay, and it's going to grow. Right? That's the word. I think if somehow we can get that out. And I know the referendum, whatever he mentioned, he has to wait until election day and all that. But I think the sooner it happens, the better it is. The sooner we get out of the news cycle, the better it's for the hospital, so that the leadership from St. Lawrence can come in and establish a proper functioning hospital. I had a chance to sit down with Mr. Ackers. He does have a vision. As a being a nephrologist, he wants to incorporate me into the system. Eventually build a complete and robust ICU and have other hospitals feed onto it. So having it basically literally a secondary or a tertiary center in the area so that people don't have to travel. I think it's a noble idea. The earlier things happen, the better it is. And the distractions somehow need to stop. Please don't go out in the print and news and say anything that this is going on or that's not going on. I think the confidence statement should be that the hospital is here to stay, it's stable, and it's going to grow, so that we can treat patients in the hospital. That's about it.
There's nobody else?
Call question.
Question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So carried.
Mr. Supervisor, one last thing is, I'd like the
authorization to submit, subject to the approval of the town clerk, the ballot measure to the Board of Elections so that it can be included on the ballot in November. Probably should be done by resolution, just so we've got a record of it.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Tom Miller, seconded by Al. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, so carried. Motion to approve.
Mr. Supervisor, can we go on an executive session for a personnel matter, rescue squad, real quick, 5 minutes? I make a motion that this board goes into executive session over a personnel matter at the Massena Rescue Squad.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed,
Thank you.
abstentions?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Can you be more specific about the